way.
I don't know what you need 1,000. One bottle of baby oil goes a long way.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We are on episode 6 of Let's Be Rational. So thanks for tuning in. What we're going to go ahead and do today is jump right into it and cover all of our topics. So we've had a interesting week, nothing too crazy. Well, never mind. Everything's always crazy. But let's see what we got to talk about. First and foremost, let's go over the markets. How can you make some money, right? Let's jump into it. All right. So we have now broken a decent threshold of 140. Or excuse me, 140. 640. And it looks like we're going to get some nice continuation for a little bit. Thoughts? Well, I told you guys August was your pullback. You'd be sitting in pretty good profit right now. I mean, it's not too much. You just stay away from small cap stocks. Get the stocks that are driving the market, Get the Mag 7, get Nvidia, get Broadcom, Oracle, get those stocks that are actually moving the market right now, and you'll be all right. And understand this, that if you're worried about investing because it's all-time highs and recessions, the stock market is rigged to go up. And I know we've talked about this, but the stock market is rigged to go up. Will it go down? Yeah, of course. But when it goes down, those recession periods are typically anywhere from 1 to 3 years. And then it has anywhere from an 8 to 12-year run-up. So if you are just investing, dollar cost averaging is what they call it, DCA, over a time period, like your retirement account, right? If you have a 401k and it just automatically pulls in, you're going to be fine. Now, if you're trying to time the market, you should already know this. You don't time the market. What you do is you put money into the market, and then every now and then you stack some cash, right? You put money into your account, you buy your stocks, you contribute to that. What I like to do is half of it goes straight into investments, and the other half goes straight into cash for opportunities like this, and this, and this, when you buy the dip, right? You do that, you'll be all right. So, yeah, not too much to say here. This was kind of expected. Now we're just going to watch this play out. Fed may cut rates in September. It's looking very, very likely. So, just keep your eye on this. Not too much to do here. Just participate and watch it rise. Let's jump on over to Bitcoin, shall we? Bitcoin. So, Bitcoin had a pretty good week. At the beginning of this week, it jumped to a new all-time high. On Bitstamp here, it says 24, but it's pretty much around that 24 marker. As you can see, very sharp retracement back into its prior range here. Nothing too crazy. I don't expect it to lose that anytime soon, but it could very well lose it. Spend some time down here in between 111 and 117 before climbing. Now, if the Feds cut rates, we'll have to see how Bitcoin reacts to it. It'll likely go up. I mean, if you look at the M2 money supply, which is the global liquidity, right? This isn't the right chart. M2. Okay, is this it? Yeah. As you can see, it keeps going up, and Bitcoin is tied to liquidity. If we get, this was COVID right here. If you're wondering why everything got more expensive, it's because this is how much money they printed since COVID. Houses, assets, why everything went up. So, they're like, oh, inflation from, let's see, 2024 to now, it's not that bad. Yeah, well, in the last 5 years, it's up crazy, right? This is how much extra money went into the system. And the problem is we're not going to be able to cut spending. It's like a hamster wheel that unfortunately we can't get off of. So you do have to figure out a way to essentially grow your way out of it. And I think what everybody has decided is the way that we're going to grow our way out of this is going to be robotics, AI to boost productivity. So we'll see. That's my theory. With that being said, Bitcoin, not a bad time to buy. Do the same thing with stocks, right? If you buy here, yeah, expect it might go down to 111. If you want to wait, knock yourself out. But I mean, investing is simple, but very hard to execute for most people because it really goes against human behavior. And if you're watching the price all the time, it's going to kill you, man. So, not too much to talk about on the stock side. Bitcoin made an all-time high, kind of expected. It'll probably end the year around anywhere between 135 to 150. My guess is it'll probably end around 145-ish. But even if it hits 145, it might as well tap 150 knowing Bitcoin. So, yeah. If it cracks 140, I imagine it'll crack 150. Now, so we get into some headlines. All right. The day after we did last live stream. Okay. The day after we did last week's live stream, this happened. So let's cover it. Trump essentially invades DC. Apparently, DC's scene has not been the greatest. And while looking through some reports, I hear mixed reviews. Some people say it's fine. Some people say it wasn't. But he deployed 800 National Guard, and they are literally taking directions from Donald Trump. This was supposed to cut down on the lawlessness and the crime taking place in Washington. Now, here is the thing. With every decision like this, Trump is testing the boundaries of presidential power. Is he justified in doing this? Maybe. I don't know what DC was like. Maybe it was really that bad. I know this had all spawned after somebody had gotten beat up protecting some women from sexual assault. And then essentially that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. All right, deploy these guards. So it's very interesting to see how this plays out because he's talked about it with California too. So he's testing the boundaries. Is it justified? I don't know. I'm leaning towards no, but at the same time, if it's that bad and nothing has been cleaned up, then why? Why does he have a reason to go there if it wasn't that bad? You know what I'm saying? So I'm on the fence with this one, but leaning more towards no. I don't know. I know very little. But I know bringing out the National Guard also adds fuel to the fire, right? Because, I mean, just look at this here. This was California, I believe, with the protest. So, yeah, this is a very interesting one here. I have to keep our eye on this, see how things play out. Haven't heard too much about it, good or bad yet. So, time will tell. But something to take note of because he is testing the limits of the executive branch and what they can do. Let's see. Okay. Now, Trump also met with Putin. They had their first meeting, I think, in 12 years, United States, with Putin, like face-to-face meeting, if I recall correctly. This took place in Alaska, and it was essentially a nothing burger. There was nothing that came out of it publicly. Maybe there were some deals made in the back rooms, but nothing had come of it besides a bunch of photo ops, some cool flyovers of B-2 bombers, and the Vladimir's plane getting escorted out of American airspace. Like, nothing really came of it. So it's very interesting that this was so public and then yet we hear nothing about it. I mean, it was very, oh, we're going to go meet with him. This is going to be great. You know, even Zelensky might come, but then nothing happened that you can announce. So, very curious what was actually discussed. And we know very little about this. And I imagine it'll be the same thing for a while. We won't know much. We won't know much. All right. Some more business and politics. Man, the Trump administration always gives us something to talk about. Always does. Here we go. Like I said, testing the boundaries of the executive branch. In a split decision, the court decided that Trump can lay people off of the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I am torn on this one as well for a basic reason as one, the word on the street is it's going to be 80% of the people that he cut. But at the same time, I've tried to just get simple things like my data updated and corrected from these people, and the credit, what do you call them? And the credit bureaus, I guess, is, you know, like Equifax, TransUnion, and God, are they awful. Like, part of me goes, dude, fire them. They're not even helpful. Like, these people don't even help you in doing anything. Even if you try to dispute something from the conversations that I've heard, like, they do nothing. Like, it's very interesting. So I'm curious to see again how this one plays out. Are those people really needed? If so, what are they doing? Because to me, and from the people that I've talked to, that I've had interactions with, I haven't really had as much interactions with the CFPB. But from the people that I have, keep in mind, some people, whether it's, you know, the student loan payments getting kicked back in, delinquencies, right? Some people are struggling. And so the conversations that I've had with some people, or just getting taken advantage of from these credit markets or these credit agencies, is the CFPB is useless. Like, they don't help anything. They might as well just be a website to submit complaints, and then the complaints get submitted, and like, it's called Consumer Financial Protection, and apparently they're not doing their job. So that's just from what I've heard on the streets. Don't know how true that is. Take it with a grain of salt. They could be mad at their situation. Maybe they dug themselves that hole and now they're lashing out. But I think we're going to get some real answers here as to what's actually happened. Are these people too aligned with the credit agencies to where they don't really have the consumer's best interests at heart? Or are they really doing their job and maybe they're just hitting a brick wall? So I think the layoffs that come after this are going to let you know what's really going on. So something to keep your eye on, especially if you had some credit issues, or you're looking to dispute something. Expect that it's going to be a little bit of a slower process if these layoffs takes place, unless I don't know, right? Because I'm on the fence. We'll leave that one there. All right. If I'm flying through these, I apologize. Today, there wasn't too much depth with our news titles. These were almost all like precursors, and I imagine the next 2 weeks will be very, very interesting, because this is kind of like the start of the gun, and we're going to see how the race goes. So, Kellogg becomes the first company to sign a legally binding agreement to remove toxic dyes from cereals. I am very happy that I'm very happy that Robert Kennedy was able to do this. I mean, if you look, and we've known this for a while, if you look at these same companies and what they're selling to other people overseas, like England, Australia, like, the stuff that they put in our food is garbage. And they're selling a different version, a healthier version, a less chemically processed version overseas. And it's like, you're an American company harming Americans and providing a more, now granted, these are not whole foods, so like they're made by humans by mixing things together. It's not like a cake. It's I mean, it's cereal. Cereal, right? You're mixing things together, putting them in cool shapes for kids and adults to have a quick breakfast, right? So, but the fact that it always blew my mind, the fact that they serve a healthier version overseas and yet they serve us some toxic formula here just because of probably profit margins, if we're being quite frank. Cheaper products, that affects their health, but we get bigger margins here in the United States, and we'll eat some of the profits over there and make a less toxic version of our product over there. So I'm very happy to see this. The question is, does this become the only legally binding agreement, or is this the start and other companies follow suit? I would personally like, because here's the thing, these brands aren't going away. They're cheap, and in a world like today where we just talked about inflation and it's getting more costly for Americans, and now they're competing with AI, taking entry level jobs, and eventually it'll take more senior jobs. People need cheap solutions, but can we get cheap solutions that aren't going to kill you immediately? I guess, because yeah, if you eat Kellogg's for your entire life, it's not going to be ideal, but ideally you wouldn't have to eat Kellogg's for your entire life, right? So it's nice to see that if I go into the grocery store, the toxicity level of some of the things that I may be interested in getting comes down just because the health secretary is essentially bringing everybody to an equal standing across the world. Hey, you're going to sell this over there without those toxins? Do the same thing here. To me, that makes sense. And it seems very practical, but we'll see how it plays out. I know that even with the EBT, they took away buying junk food, which I think is smart. Why should you be able to buy junk with that? Like, let them buy some healthy whole foods. Or just like limit the amount of it. Anyways, I'm rambling. I'm speculating. Personally, this is my own biased opinion. I think the easier you make it for Americans to be healthy with less money, the healthier America is going to be. And I think a healthy America is not a bad thing. I think it'll help with mental health, and it'll help with, and if it helps with mental health, like it'll help with everything across the board, because America is a cesspit for mental illness. But if you can fix what you're putting into your body, you might be able to slow some of that down. So I'm done rambling. There's my 2 cents on it. I hope it turns out well. It at least brings us to the same standard countries like, and I don't say this often, countries like Europe are. I think we should be on the same standard for food as they are, because they have great food laws and protecting the consumers of those products. We do not have that here, which is why America is morbidly obese as a nation. All right, enough rambling about make America healthy. Let's talk Trump again. All right, NVIDIA and AMD, they are now going to pay 15% of the revenues of chip sales to China to the U.S. government. And apparently, they are going to find some way to collect and report data to China, similar to how Chinese companies have taken over 5G and 4G in the United States, and everything from solar panels to pretty much everything in our grid comes, and I'm talking electrical grid, comes from them. And nobody audits what kind of reporting technology is installed in the hardware or software of our electrical grid. For all we know, and very likely, they can just shut it off with a flip of a switch. Playing the long game, China, I see you. And so now China has responded saying, yo, we're not okay with this. We're going to stop actually buying chips from NVIDIA and AMD. So this is very interesting. This is talking about how China could react, but China already did react. Let's see. Let's do, what am I talking? NVIDIA chips. Nah, this should be recent. Okay, here we go. Guess we're not going to be able to read it. Okay, but essentially, like the title says, China isn't happy about it, and they are telling. Oh, that's last year, and they're warning companies, which means China's telling companies don't use their chips, especially if they're going to collect some kind of data, report, whatever it may be. Some tech wars going on there. All right, let's move into Israel. I've already talked about their endgame. Thanos over here snapping away Gaza. I apologize. That was very insensitive. But yeah. Now they're just killing press. And they don't give a rat's ass about it. They're just, oh well. Which is very sad to see. But they've been blowing up kids and civilians for forever. I mean, it was going to be press next. It's anybody in the region, anybody talking bad. This is their response. And like I discussed probably 3 weeks ago now, they're just going to wipe them off the face of the map, and the world is going to let them do it. I don't see anybody standing up to stopping it. They're just dissenting. No. You can't do that. That's not okay. But if you want to know my thoughts and opinions, look on later episodes. This is very unfortunate. They killed, I think it was a handful of journalists. And yeah, you're not safe if you're a journalist in the Middle East right now. Thoughts and prayers out to the victims. I mean, we know how this is going to end, unfortunately. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And then even when it gets better, it's not going to be better. All right. Another terrible topic is that really got no American coverage is there was crazy flash flooding that killed 280 people that we know of right now. And this was Friday. In India and Pakistan. I mean, crazy rains. Here they're talking about how it had happened. Of course, you got the Himalayan mountains over there that can cause that. But, I mean, these floods, as you can see, were devastating. I mean, look at that. That looks like anybody that's on the south or east coast, that looks like a hurricane. That looks like the damage a hurricane would cause. This was just flash flooding. That is insane. They're still looking for people over the weekend. I believe this took place on Friday. Yeah, the world is crazy. Thoughts and prayers out to these people as well. Hopefully this is the end of the death toll, but we don't know. They were able to get 1,600 out by Friday. Maybe that's something we'll cover, is you should have a basic understanding of the natural disasters that would affect your region and a basic preparedness structure. Like I know for my region in America, and this is probably for most of America, some kind of storm, natural disaster storm, whether if you're in the central Midwest, of course, tornadoes will be a thing. If you're on the East Coast or the South Coast, you might have to watch out for hurricanes, thunderstorms in general, snowstorms if you're up in the north. Like those things you need to have some kind of level of preparedness for I always say at least 3 days. I don't really worry about food for 3 days. That's something I take care of when I have more insight into as a storm is approaching or as a disaster is approaching. Forgive me. As a disaster is approaching, food becomes more of a priority. But I'm talking things like flashlights, batteries, like these things always occur and people seem to always be unprepared. Will you be able to stop the damage? Probably not. That's why they're called natural disasters. But the least you can do is make sure that you have a way to navigate and be a little bit mobile, you know? So maybe I'll make something to cover that, especially with the electricity grid is my biggest concern. We're sucking up all this extra power for AI and our grid already sucks and we cannot make energy fast enough, whether it's from nuclear power plants, oil and gas industry, solar power, you name it, wind. We just can't get enough energy and we need more energy. So we're increasing the strain on our grid. We can't keep up with it. So blackouts and a loss of electricity are primarily my number one concern. And of course, storms as well, any kind of natural disaster. So keep that in mind. I recommend everybody get a little. All you need is like a backpack full of just some basic stuff. You can probably make the kit for like $50 and just leave it in your closet, leave it in your garage, you know, so that you're not fighting everybody else for supplies, 3 to 4 days before everything happens. Maybe you have to get a couple things, but something I think everybody should consider because everybody's probably been through a power outage. Everybody's probably been through a terrible storm. And everybody probably will go through several in their lifetime. So, something to consider. All right. Last but not least, our last topic for the day is perplexity. Perplexity wants to buy Chrome. This is a power move and why they are offering 34.5 billion. We're not talking millions. They want to spend $35 billion to buy Chrome. That is a very smart move. Why? How many people have a Gmail account? How many people use Chrome to search the internet? How much data is on Google Chrome that this AI model this would be a leap ahead, bringing perplexity. I think they're probably in about second. I feel like second through fifth tier is all kind of tied, but this would solidify them for second and put them as a contender for first against OpenAI, of course, ChatGPT. And this shows you how much AI companies need data. And I'm going through the process of removing as much of my data from the internet as possible. Just OSINT, open source intelligence. I'm actively removing everything because I have a feeling as a trader, you learn to look at patterns, and I have a feeling that over the long haul, all this data that is being collected right now will at some point have the opportunity to be used against me. Don't know how, don't know who, don't know what, but all of this data that they have been collecting from these things, the laptop, the internet, we are entering George Orwell's book, 1984. 89, 1984. What is it? 89, 84? I want to say it's 1984. Make sure I get this right. Yeah, 1984. We're entering that book. Big Brother will come knocking. I mean, you're seeing it. If you're paying attention to Palantir behind the scenes, ever since, 9/11 and the way they're using technology with the government, very scary. Very, very scary. And people already willingly trade convenience for privacy, for security. So, yeah, just keep that in mind, people. Keep that in mind. But with that being said, this deal here, I don't know if it'll go through, but if it goes through, it's going to be a big one. It is going to be a big one. And if we already, of course, have renewed talks about how your data and your privacy comes into play, how copyright comes into play. Of course, artists have been throwing a fuss ever since. Yeah. Interesting times we live in, people. Interesting times. But ladies and gentlemen, that's everything I got for you guys today. Like I said, a lot of these were precursors, and we're going to see some big changes in the next coming weeks. We're going to see some big headlines from these in the next coming weeks. It's all setting up. We're watching the foundation get set up for really 2026 right now. So pay attention, be prepared. Like I said, you might want to look into OSINT and see kind of just what kind of data is out there that you don't really want, just it's like how you present yourself to other people when you're in public, right? You wear certain things. You're not out in your house comfy clothes 9 times out of 10, right? You're not talking a specific way. You should consider the internet the same way, and you should look at that and go, maybe I don't want this out there. Maybe I want this out there, and tailor that image. But, ladies and gentlemen, that was Let's Be Rational, episode 6. Please be rational. And thank you for tuning in. Peace.